theyeshiva.net.
What I chose to learn here today is, this week we'll learn it, as you could see on top, Sichos Shabbos Parshas Nitzavim Vayeilech, Chav Gimel Elul Tovshin Mem Tes. This is a Sicha that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave Shabbos by the Fabrengen, Chav Gimel Elul, the last Shabbos of the year, exactly like this Kviyas, like this year. Tovshin Nun, which was 1989, Rosh Hashanah was also Shabbos. Rosh Hashanah Shechali is b'Shabbos. The first day of Rosh Hashanah was Shabbos, like this year, Tovshin Pei Daled. So the last Shabbos, before that, the Shabbos of the year is always Chav Gimel Elul. Shabbos is Chav Gimel, Sunday is Chav Daled, and you have Chav Hei, Chav Vav, Chav Zayin, Chav Ches, Chav Tes. Friday is Erev Rosh Hashanah, and then Shabbos is Rosh Hashanah, the first day of Tishrei. So this was the last Shabbos of the year, and you always read Nitzavim, usually Nitzavim Vayeilech, Shabbos Nitzavim Vayeilech, Chav Gimel Elul. This was Tovshin Mem Tes. Tovshin Mem Tes is 1989. The Rebbe then presented a very profound explanation based on the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov and the Baal Tanya on Rosh Hashanah Shechali is b'Shabbos, Rosh Hashanah of Shabbos, which is very appropriate for this year. I had the schus to be there at the time to hear it live, so I'm not just reading it mepi aksav, I'm also sharing what I saw and heard because I was present at the time. So Aleph. B'negei liyom tov Rosh Hashanah shechali is b'Shabbos. Kakvi is the Rosh Hashanah haba aleinu l'tova shemizbarach m'Shabbos zu. Shebemikdash hayu toiken avaloi b'Medina. Rosh Hashanah that comes out on Shabbos. The Mishnah says in Maseches Rosh Hashanah, the fourth chapter, the fourth Perek of Rosh Hashanah, that when Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos, in the Beis HaMikdash, they used to blow shofar. Avaloi b'Medina, but not in the rest of the country. In the rest of the country, they didn't blow shofar. Only in the Beis HaMikdash. Yedu HaKushya, there's a well-known question, Eichi tochen shetitcha mitzvah seset etkiyah shofar. How is it that Shabbos should override the mitzvah of shofar? Tkiyah shofar u inyan ikri b'Rosh Hashanah. Mitzvah sayom b'shofar. It's not like shofar is a small thing. So one year you do it, the other way you do it. Some minhag, fine, you don't do it always. Tkiyah shofar, the Mishnah says, mitzvah sayom b'shofar. It's a Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah. It's the mitzvah of the day. And it's a mitzvah min ha-Torah. It's a chiyuv min ha-Torah that on Rosh Hashanah you should blow shofar and hear shofar. V'tam hadavar. And there's a reason why it's the mitzvah of the day. L'fi she'inyanet shel Rosh Hashanah hu achtaras HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'melech. K'di'isa b'gemara. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu imru l'fanai b'Rosh Hashanah malchis k'dei shetamlichuni aleichem. V'achtaras HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'melech nasas ha'idei ha-shofar u'bameh b'shofar. The Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah, Daf Tazayin and Lamed Aleph, that Hashem tells the Jewish people, say before me, on Rosh Hashanah, say, Malchias, all the verses that deal with Hashem being a Melech. That's what we do in the Musaf of Rosh Hashanah, a whole section. There's a section of Malchias and Zechronis and Shofras. Why? So that you should coronate me. Shetamlichuni aleichem, you should coronate me on you. So Tzemach Tzedek used to call the night of Rosh Hashanah Koronatsia Nacht, the night of coronation. And how do you crown the king? A shofar. How is Tamlichuni Aleichem through the shofar? Reb Saadia Gaon writes, She'echad ha'taimim d'tkiyah shofar hu lefi shekein oisin ha'malachim b'tchilas malchusam shetoken lefneim b'chatzoitznus u'b'kronos loidio la'ashmiya b'chol makam ascholas malchusam. You see, the Gemara says in Brachos, Nonches malchusa der arakein malchusa der rakiyah. That royalty down here mirrors royalty up there. So you see that the tradition, the universal tradition is when they would coronate the king, so they would do it with blowing trumpets and horns. Kronos are horns, chatzaitzos are trumpets, which would declare the kingship and the royalty and the monarch, the new throne that this king is assuming. It was like a declaration that the Melech has assumed his position as the new king. So Rosh Hashanah, you crown and coronate Hashem. The Reb Saadia Gaon says that's one of the reasons. Reb Saadia Gaon gives 10 reasons But this is one of, this is his first, I think, a main reason. Al Pizeh, if this is the case, Eich Yitachin Metzius Rosh Hashanah, Tamlichuni Aleichem Bameh B'Shofar, L'Lo Tkiya Shofar. Eich Tiach Taras HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Melechim Lo Yadei Tkiya Shofar. So it seems like when you dismiss Shofar, you're cutting out the core of Rosh Hashanah. It's not a custom, a tradition of Rosh Hashanah. You don't do Tashlach today, you'll do it another day. You're cutting out what happens with the coronation of the king on Rosh Hashanah, Bameh B'Shofar. The Gemara says, how are you Tamlichuni Aleichem through the Shofar? How does that happen? Now, the Gemara says in Maseches Rosh Hashanah, I spoke about it Mitzvah Shabbos, that there was a Gzeira de Rabbi. Gzeira de Rabbi is that Rabbi said that in the second Beis HaMikdash, most of the Gzeiras of Chazal were done in Bayis Sheni. In the first Beis HaMikdash, most of them were very few. In the second Beis HaMikdash, they made a lot of different Gzeiras of Chazal. So this was a takana of Chazal not to blow shofar. V'harai in the Beis HaMikdash, they blew shofar. Why did they blow shofar in the Beis HaMikdash on Shabbos? It doesn't say in Chumash that Shabbos you don't blow shofar. It says on the first day of the month of Tishrei, Yom Tzruah Yeh Lechem. There's no distinction between Shabbos and the weekdays. At least not a clear distinction. In Yerushalmi there's a limud, Yom Tzruah, Zichron Tzruah, that Yom Tzruah is every year and Zichron Tzruah is only on Shabbos. But B'Pashtus, it says on the first day of the month of Tishrei. So why did the Chachamim say no? So the Gemara says, Gzeira de Rabbi. Rabbi explained that they were afraid that people might come to carry the shofar on Shabbos. Because you may have a shofar in the house, but you don't know how to blow. And certainly you don't know all the details and all the intricacies of Tkiyah shofar. So you're going to take the shofar to somebody else. And you're going to carry it. And if you carry it, so then you were over on Chilul Shabbos. Even if it was a mistake. In other words, you didn't intend to be Mechal Shabbos. You intend to be Mechal Shabbos, then you're not such a Jew. What's the difference? Yes, shofar, no shofar. If he wants to carry, he'll carry. We're talking about somebody who, in a moment of forgetfulness, they run with the shofar because they're excited, they want to hear the shofar, and they might carry it. So because of that, they would doich a shofar. So the Alter Rebbe in Likkutei asks a question. He says, so understand this. How many people are we worried about? How many people are worried about? One person. What? First of all, Rosh Hashanah, you should go to shul. If you can't go to shul, so have somebody come blow the shofar. Even if you're not going to shul and you don't know how to blow shofar, right? And you want to go hear shofar. So it's Shabbos. You're talking about a Jew who's Eidesh. Again, if you're talking about a Jew who's callous, who couldn't care less, or what do you make? It's no different than Rosh Hashanah, or Purim, or Chanukah, to B'Shvat. He doesn't care about Shabbos. He's talking about a person who cares about Shabbos. So the chash is that in his passion, he's going to forget, and he's going to carry a shofar on Shabbos. How many people are you talking about? So because of that, no Jew in the world, besides in the Beis HaMikdash, is allowed to hear shofar on Rosh Hashanah. And again, it's not a minig, it's a mitzvah esim in a Torah. It's a mitzvah esim, and the Chachamim were oiker it. They uprooted it from all of Klal Yisrael, outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Beis HaMikdash ain't shvuz b'mikdash. They didn't make all these gezeiros in the Beis HaMikdash, fences and fences and fences. But you have a fence, l'mosh, we don't need chicken and milk. Yeah. In a Torah, you can eat chicken and milk. We can't eat meat and milk. You're allowed to eat chicken and milk. Rabbi Yossi Aglili used to eat chicken and milk. The Gemara says that the Chacham made a gzeira because people eat chicken together with meat. We consider chicken fleishiks, even though chicken is not fleishiks. But if you go to a deli restaurant, you expect on the menu chicken and meat. So b'meila, if you eat chicken and milk, right, a chicken burger and a meat burger look the same. So in order to create a fence against eating meat and milk, they ask chicken and milk. But there's no mitzvah in Torah to eat chicken and milk. There's no mitzvah in Torah to eat chicken and milk. So these are gzeiros, a lot of gzeiros the Chachamim made in order to protect people. If you have a nuclear reactor, you make sure to put fences and fences and fences and fences. If you have a hazard, something that's a hazard, you don't just tell people don't touch it. You put a fence. If there's a cliff, you don't just say don't go there, you're going to fall. You put a fence to protect people. You can understand. It's called asu shagla Torah. That's part of Torah. Part of Torah, asum ushmartem is mishmartem, asum mishmenes l'mishmenes. Moshe Rabbeinu writes in the Torah that the Sanhedrin had a koyach if they saw that something was a hazard and people could fall off a cliff, chas v'shalom, they're obligated to make a fence. And if it's a Bezdin, if it's Sanhedrin, which means the central body of the Jewish people that can legislate, it's Mechayev Klal Yisrael. And those are the takonas of Gzeis Divrei Seifrim. It's not a hefke vel stam, you make a gzeiri, you make an isser. The Rambam explains this at length in his introduction to Mishnah Torah and Perishah Mishnayos, how it works. Here, it's a big chiddush. Here they took a mitzvahs essay min ha-Torah, and not stam a mitzvahs essay. The mitzvahs essay that coronates Hashem as a king, and they canceled it. You need a good reason. The Torah doesn't say it. The Torah says blow Shabbos. Well, the Beis HaMikdash, they blew. They wouldn't blow in the Beis HaMikdash if it wasn't a mitzvah. That they didn't touch. And why? Because one guy, I don't know who this guy is, but this guy, whoever he is, Mustama deserves Malchus. Whoever this guy is. And because of him, that's it, no shofar already thousands of years on Shabbos. Psapella. This is the Alter Rebbe's question. It's a big question. So the Alter Rebbe says that the Gzeira de Rabbe is the outer explanation. The Chazal understood something deeper than that. The Gzeira de Rabbe is the way it was manifested in Nigla, in Halacha. But like in everything, there's the pnimius of it. So Mevur Bazeh Bedrush Chassidus. It's explained in Chassidus. He says in 5, Likkutei Drusha Rosh Hashanah Siddur. Sheberosh Hashanah shechol b'Shabbos nasis achtalas hamelech mitzad inyani shel Yom HaShabbos. L'lo tzorech b'pula d'tkiyah shofar. Chazal understood that on Shabbos, what happens through Tkiyah Shofar happens through Shabbos. It's not that Shabbos you're missing the Tkiyah Shofar. What happens on Shabbos what happens with Tkiyah Shofar happens on Shabbos. In other words, the coronation of the Melech happens mitzat Shabbos. Why? Ki achtaras ha-Melech yadei zeh shemorid meseratz l'meluch adei hamshachas v'gili ha'tainug. V'kivon sheb'yom HaShabbos nimshach v'nizgal ha'tainug eli mitzad atzmoi ein tzorech b'pulosam shel Yisrael adei Tkiyah Shofar. The Balatanya explains, the Alter Rebbe explains, that the coronation of the king, a real king, happens by arousing in him a ratzin, a desire for leadership, through accessing and revealing the tainug, the pleasure. In other words, a real leader is not somebody who needs the leadership to get validation or attention. That's not a leader. That's somebody who needs an ego boost. A real melech, mitzat atzmai, is completely beyond it. It's a compromise. It's a Mesiras Nefesh. Like Moshe Rabbeinu, he wasn't looking for it. He was happy to be a shepherd. It says that the Baal Shem Tov, his teacher told him that because he did something wrong relative to his level, he is punished. What's his punishment? That he has to reveal himself. For some people, it's a reward. For other people, it's a punishment. Shaul HaMelech, David HaMelech, they all had to be pushed into it. Why? It's not just humility, because it's a whole different world. When you're living in a world of projection, it's very, very difficult. So the Melech on his own doesn't need it. He's completely beyond it. He transcends it. If he needs it, then he can't be a real leader, because then he's following the people. The people are not following him. He's looking at the polls. You know, if I'm leading and I'm seeing how you're going to like me more, you're going to like me less. It's very hard to be a real leader. You're not a real leader. The leader has to be anchored in an inner core. So it's a choice. It's a choice to become a melech. You need to create the tainug for malucha. The tainug, the pleasure that to dedicate his entire essence and life for the people. We're talking here a real king. Unfortunately, history has seen more tyrants and dictators and despots who were manipulative and exploitive and just wanted to control people in the world. Malchus is beratzin kiblu alayhim. Malchus is about the ratzin, that the people really wanted. What creates the tainug in the melech? So when the attachment, it's like in a relationship. Say in any powerful friendship or marriage, the attachment of one to the other. That I say, I don't want to be without you. I can't be without you. This triggers and arouses in the other person a similar feeling, and I don't want to be without you. So the Alter Rebbe explains that Rosh Hashanah, when the Jew blows shofar, it's not just the physical shofar. Obviously, it's the physical shofar, but it's a declaration of anochas atzmusi, of complete attachment. I want to be with you. So that kivayachol arouses in Hashem, who's infinitely transcendent, to be able to say, yes, and I don't want to be without you. That's what shofar is. So he says on Shabbos, this tainug gets revealed mitzat Shabbos. So therefore, you don't need the act of shofar. B'loshen Chazal, sheShabbos mekadsha v'kaima mitzad atzma. The Gemara says in Beitzah that Shabbos is holy on its own. Every seventh day is Shabbos, whether you like it, you don't like it, you prepare for it, you don't prepare it, it's Shabbos. The loy b'kiyamtiv sheYisrael inu de mekadshinu l'zmanei. Shalachein oimnim b'yamtiv mekadesh Yisrael v'azmanim. V'chein b'Rosh Hashanah mekadesh Yisrael v'yem hazakon. Mashenkin b'Shabbos shemekadsha v'kaima l'loy pulosam sheYisrael. The Gemara says in Beitzah and Brachas an interesting thing in Kiddush. By Shabbos we say Baruch Atah Hashem. How do you finish Kiddush? Mekadesh HaShabbos. So what should we say? Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah, same thing, no? Baruch Atah Hashem, Mekadesh, Yom Tov, Mekadesh Yom HaZikaron, Mekadesh Yom HaSukkos, Mekadesh Zman Cheruseinu. What do we say? Mekadesh Yisrael v'Azmanim. Why don't you say Shabbos, Mekadesh Yisrael v'Shabbos? He doesn't make the Jews holy on Shabbos. So Chazal explain, beautiful vart, that Yom Tov all depends on Jews. We create Yom Tov. Why? Because who creates Rosh Chodesh? Bezdin. Bezdin has the authority to say when is the first day of the month, and it was based on the witnesses coming and seeing the new moon, and if the witnesses didn't come, Rosh Chodesh got pushed off a day. So Yisrael, the Jews, are Mekadesh Zman, and Yom Tov is based on Rosh Chodesh, the 15th day of the month. Shabbos is every 7th day. So Shabbos is Mekadesh HaShabbos. Hashem makes Shabbos holy. Yom Tov, the Jewish people make Yom Tov holy. We're the ones who decide when Pesach is, when Yom Kippur is. And if Bezdin makes a mistake, or Bezdin makes a cheshbon, you have to make Rosh Chodesh another day. Yom Kippur is a different day. Whole story in Rosh Hashanah, Rabbi Yeshua believed Yom Kippur is a different day. Rabbi Gamliel thought it was a different day. And Gamliel told Rabbi Yeshua, I want you to come Yom Kippur on your Yom Kippur with your money. And Rabbi Yeshua was upset. Rabbi Akiva said, no, this is Atem Afilu Shegegin, Atem Afilu Mezidin. So therefore, Yom Tov you have to explain, Mekadesh Yisrael v'Hazmanah. How can Jews have a koyach to say that this day is Yom Kippur, which means it's a different day, it's holy because they're holy. So Yisrael inu de mekadshinu l'zmanim. The Jewish people are Mekadesh d'zman. So you have to say Mekadesh Yisrael, and through that v'Hazmanim. Shabbos is completely independent. Shabbos is from heaven. It's a gift from heaven. Mekadsha v'kaim. It's holy on its own. Mekadesh HaShabbos, not Mekadesh Yisrael v'Hazman. Or Rosh Hashanah we say Mekadesh Yisrael v'yem hazikaron. Yeah. So usually you need the blowing of the shofar, the Alter Rebbe explains. On Rosh Hashanah Shechali is b'Shabbos. Shabbos achieves it all. Because Shabbos is the Gili Atainug, the pleasure of Hashem in creation and in the world. It's the Gili Atainug, like when you rest and celebrate what is. That's what Shabbos is. Shabbos is a day of Tainug, right? Oz tis'anag al Hashem. Oz tis'anag, like the Navi says in Yeshaya. It's a day of Tainug. So you don't need the shofar to reveal the Tainug in the people and in creation. In Achtaras HaMelech. Oh. The Svardim do it right. Somebody sent me yesterday, he said, only the Svardi wrote, he said, only the Ashkenazim have the chutzpah to wake up 3 weeks late for slichas and then say, we're here first. So only the Ashkenazim have that chutzpah. Drei Wochen schlafen sie, danach wecken sie sich auf eine Nacht, Kidam Nucha. Ich bin da. Okay. Same with the Shia, ja, sie sind schon da, sind schon Chodesh Shalal. Ich habe sich ein aufgeweckt und, ja. I danke für den Limut Schus. Der Wach von Rosh Hashanah darf mal Limut Schus sein auf Jeden. Alle Mal, sicher bei Rosh Hashanah. So now you have the question, so why in the Beis HaMikdash are they blowing? V'afal began b'mikdash are you taken, ki yesh kama b'chinas binyan ha-tainug le'ein kates v'tachlis. In Tainug, there are infinite levels in pleasure. What is pleasurable? As we know, there's a superficial pleasure and a deeper pleasure, a pleasure that touches you at your core, a pleasure that is more external. Pleasure has infinite layers. V'kivan shebemikdash, yichoylem lahamshich tainug nailo yoser ma'atainug shenimshich hadei ha-shabbos. L'chein b'mikdash hayu toikin gedei lahamshich ha-tainug ha-yoser elyon. Ma'sheged b'medinah shebelavachi yef shel hamshich b'chinas ha-tainug ha-yoser elyon. Ki im ha-b'chinas shenimshich mitzad inyono shel yom ha-shabbos. So the Baal HaTanya explains that in the Beis HaMikdash they can access a much deeper level of tainug even greater than the one that comes through Shabbos. Over there, they had to blow shofar. They wouldn't stop it. But outside of the Beis HaMikdash, that level of tainug is experienced and accessed through Shabbos. So therefore, they could say, don't blow shofar on Shabbos. Now remember, this was only in the second Beis HaMikdash. In the first Beis HaMikdash, they always blew, even Shabbos. Like he says in footnote 10, that at Yeridas Hadar Bizman Bayis Sheni, that's when most Gzeiros happened in the time of Bayis Sheni, including the Gzeira de Rabbi. People think Gzeira de Rabbi means Rabbi made the Gzeira. Rabbi didn't make the Gzeira because Rabbi didn't live in the time of the Beis HaMikdash. Rabbi lived hundreds of years after Churban Bayis Sheni. So Rabbi wouldn't say in the Beis HaMikdash we blow, but loy b'Medina. That means Gzeira de Rabbi means that Rabbi explained why they made a Gzeira, not that Rabbi made the Gzeira. Rabbi was an Amoira who lived in Bavel hundreds of years after Churban Bayis Sheni. So it's just to understand. In Zman Bayis edition, the Alter Rebbe says the whole world, even b'Medina, was in a higher state. So therefore, you had to blow shofar on Shabbos because they can access the higher tainuk. You're asking, so why do you need Gzeira de Rabbi? Just say you don't need shofar. So there's two things. First of all, you could still blow shofar. The Torah doesn't exclude it, so there's a reason why they should cancel it. At least as a zeicher lemikdash, even as a zeicher lemikdash, even in Bayis Sheni, if there's no Gzeira de Rabbi, even if you're not mamshich, at least like we do so many things, zeicher lemikdash, at least that. So mitzad Gzeira of Rabbi, they canceled it completely. But what are they canceling? They're canceling the act of shofar. They're not canceling what's accomplished through shofar. That's basically what's explained by Kitzur Nimritz. Aval adayin darush biyah v'hesber. But l'cha'ira, you still need explanation. Me'inyonim mekrim de Rosh Hashanah noisev al achtaras HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'malach shel ha'atzma gam she'achtaras nasas ha'idei avidosim shel Yisrael. Imru lefonim malchus b'Rosh Hashanah she'tamlichuni aleichem she'Yisrael ha'idei avidosim poel l'machtaras HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kiyadua biyah b'tam kviyas Rosh Hashanah be'echad b'tishrei v'l'yom brei adam rishon she'yom shishi l'maisa b'reishis v'loi b'chafei be'elul yom rishon l'maisa b'reishis kivon shabas cholas ha'briyah ha'yu kol ha'inyanim mitzad ki chafetz chesed hu. Aval achshav b'yisarusa de l'sata talya milsa shetzarech liyis adei avodas ha'adam davka k'may shahaya b'yom brei adam rishon she'ichteres HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'melech b'amnei Hashem malach geius lavish v'gila malchus shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chol ha'briyah b'amnei l'chol ha'nivram sheba'olam boyu v'neshtach v'nichra v'nechol f'nei Hashem meisenu v'lachein nikva Rosh Hashanah l'yom brei ha'adam kivon she'Yisrael Atem kruyin Adam al shem Adam Rishon shoya kolam mikol neshamas Yisrael b'chol neshama yesh chelik minishmas Adam Rishon machtirim HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'melech al atzma v'yidei zegam al kol ha'olam v'al pi zeh tzarech lav and eichi tachel sheberosh Hashanah shechal b'Shabbos she'ein token b'shofar kivon shenimshech hataining mitzad atzma mitzad inyan Hashem HaShabbos yechser inyan shachtar tzarech lisa adei avidosim shel Yisrael dafka. There's still a very big question. One of the fundamental ideas of Rosh Hashanah is not just Hashem is coronated; it's who coronates him. It's that the people coronate him. It's a relationship between the people. Ein melech b'lo yam. The people that coronate. Imru lefanei malchus b'Rosh Hashanah. The Gemara says shetamlichuni aleichem. You should coronate me. In fact, that's the reason why Rosh Hashanah was established on the 1st of Tishrei, not on Chafei Elul, which is the anniversary of creation. We say in the davening Zeh Hayom Tchilas Ma'asecha, but it's not Zeh Hayom Tchilas Ma'asecha. It's not the beginning of creation. It's the 6th day of creation. Adam was created on the 6th day. Creation of the world, the Gemara says, was Chafei Elul, 25th day of Elul. The 6th day, Adam and Chava were created. So Rosh Hashanah, the beginning, you want to go to the beginning, we should be the 25th day of Elul, anniversary of creation. That's not when Rosh Hashanah is. The answer is because in the beginning, the whole creation happened, like it says, Chafetz Chesed. Hashem wanted the connection. He wanted the kindness. But now, once there is creation, the action happens through avodas ha'adam, through the person. When was the person introduced? The person was introduced on Rosh Hashanah. When Adam was created, it says he coronated Hashem. He said, Hashem malach geus lavish. That's what we say every Friday. Hayom yom shishi b'Shabbos. Hashem malach geus lavish. Hashem ruled. He donned the garment of exaltedness. That's from Tehillim Tzaddik Gimel. And he revealed Hashem's malchus in the Bria. It says that he announced to all of the creation, l'chuniranana we say, boyu v'neshtacha v'nichra nivrucha l'fnei Hashem say, no, come let us kneel before Hashem. So Rosh Hashanah was created, was established on the day when Adam was created. Why? Because it's not when creation happened, it's when the human being justifies creation and reveals the truth of the world. That doesn't happen on the anniversary of creation. That happens when the person comes into the picture. In the beginning, Hashem did it on his own. But after that, the hachtarah, the coronation, depends on the avodah of the person. So that's why Rosh Hashanah was established when Adam was created, because the Adam is the one who completes the world. The world on its own, without the human being, the human being is just a little speck in a huge, huge cosmos in the universe. But that little speck, that Adam, ultimately is the crown jewel of creation who brings the whole Bria back to completion. So that's why, when do we celebrate the world? When the day the person was created. You know, in our generation, more and more, the human is being minimized to be seen as absolutely worthless. First of all, a random mutation. And certainly when you see the whole cosmos, you know, they took a picture once, 1990, there was a robotic spacecraft that took a picture of planet Earth from 4 billion miles away. 4 billion miles away. Which, by the way, relatively is not so far. I mean, it's far, but relative to the universe, it's not so far. The size of the universe that we know is 93 billion light years. Now, you know what a light year means? Light travels 186,000 miles per second. So figure out what a light year is. It's beyond comprehension. Now go 93 billion light years. That's the size we know of. That's what we know. We know. You're not even talking about what it is. So this is 4 billion years. They said there was once a professor, and he told the crowd that based on his understanding of cosmology, in 4 billion years, what is it called, an asteroid is going to hit the planet Earth, and we're all going to be kaput, yizgadal. So there was a Jew in the crowd, and he started to have heart palpitations. The Kol Hatzalos, the professor said, what? He said, you said the Earth is going to be destroyed. He said, I said in 4 billion years. He said, oh, Baruch Hashem, I thought you said 4 million. So, what am I saying? Oh, so they took a picture of planet Earth. You could see it. It's called, there's a book about it. It's called a blue pale dot, I think. So it's unbelievable. It's a picture. You know what it looks like. You're searching for it in the picture. And then they show you that there's a tiny, it's 0.12th of a pixel. It's less than a pixel. It's a tiny little whitish dot that you could barely see. You usually have to take off your glass. You have to stare at it, right? And that's where, and then you realize, and that's where everything is happening. So you could come to two conclusions. Either we just take ourselves too seriously, and we're like in a complete delusion. That's one perspective. Huh? Maybe, yeah. And there's something powerful in that, because humility is a very, very good quality, right? But Yiddishkeit comes and says, and in that space, in that little space, Hashem says, Tamlichuni aleichem. Now, when you compare that to space, it's insignificant. Now, that's only 4 billion miles. Now go 93 billion miles. Now go 93 billion light. It's invisible. This is all in creation. Now go to creator. So the whole thing seems insignificant. So therefore, you have to be ma'orer the tainug in melucha. There's a tainug in melucha. That's what shofar is. On Shabbos, it happens on its own. But the whole idea of Rosh Hashanah is the person accomplishes it. L'chayr on Shabbos, there's no avodah. You're saying it happens on Shabbos, so that's what's missing. Even if Hashem is coronated because it's tainug, but the person involved is completely absent. The idea is that the fact that we don't blow shofar is also part of the avodah of Tkiyah Shofar. It's not just you don't blow. Not blowing is an avodah in the soul of a person. Hainu she'eina kavana she'b'reshana shechol b'Shabbos lo kayemes ha'avodah det Tkiyah Shofar. Ki im she'avodah det Tkiyah Shofar hi ba'ofen shel shlila she'ein token b'shofar. It's not on Rosh Hashanah you don't blow shofar. You don't. It's just passive. We sit around and don't blow shofar. That's not the word. There's an avodah of Tkiyah Shofar. But the avoid of Tkiyah Shofar is through not blowing shofar. Now, it sounds like semantics. Right? You know, when a person is silent, it could be two reasons. One is you have nothing to say. And one is you're saying something in your silence. We call it a thundering silence, or the sound of silence. And sometimes the sound of silence is much, much louder than the sound of sounds. Just like shofar itself, even when you blow, it says in Zohar, it's kala pnima de lo yishtama. It captures a voice that's not heard. That's why it's not the human voice, it's the animal voice. Why it's not the human voice? Because shofar captures a voice inside of you that you can't express with your mouth. It's a primal voice that comes out through the animal. It's the reptilian or mammalian voice that comes out. So then there's something even deeper, and that is the voice that's not captured even through the shofar. So you don't blow, you don't blow, canceled. No. It's an avoid of not blowing. That sounds strange. It needs to be explained. Furthermore, this avoida has something even deeper than blowing shofar in actuality when Rosh Hashanah is in the other days of the week. Sunday through, not Sunday, but the other days of the week when Rosh Hashanah could be. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday.
It's a steer. Whole thing, because it requires the shofar not to blow the shofar.
Very good. Okay, very good, yeah. Yeah. You need a shofar not to blow it, yeah. The pshitische kedushas shabbes ene geras chas shalom malas Rosh Hashanah. El adra b'shadei shabbes netoyse v'yoyse malas Rosh Hashanah. So it's pashut to say that Shabbos diminishes Rosh Hashanah. It gives you a lower Rosh Hashanah. Just because Rosh Hashanah had mazel to fall out on Shabbos, so Shabbos takes away from Rosh Hashanah. If anything, Shabbos increases Rosh Hashanah, doesn't take away from Rosh Hashanah. So it's not far-fetched to say that the not Tkiyah Shofar on Shabbos is deeper in a way than the Tkiyah Shofar on Rosh Hashanah. And then there's something even deeper. And that was in the Beis HaMikdash where they did blow even on Shabbos. Kiddush L'kaman, as will be explained. So here is a different way of looking at it. Not Shabbos, we don't do it. No, Shabbos, there's an avodah. It's not just it passively gets accomplished through Shabbos. That's a nice explanation that you don't need shofar, but you're still missing the key of Rosh Hashanah, which is the human contribution, the human relationship. I want you. I don't just want to be a king and it happens automatic. The chvil dir, I want you. Like Adam. So he says it happens through you. But how? They're not blowing. How is not blowing? Not blowing is passive. Depends what we mean by not blowing. So it says in Pikad Rebbe Lezer, he brings in 14 that when the day that Adam was created, it said he called names to all the animals, and it says the Medrash says that he went to the whole Bria, to all the creations, and he told them, Boyu, we say it in L'chunei Ranana. Boyu nishtachave v'nichra'a nivrecha l'fnei Hashem Eseinu, and he declared Hashem Elokei Yisrael, which basically, those words represent an idea that Adam saw himself as the composer of the as the conductor of the symphony. He saw the world as a symphony, and his job is to conduct the symphony and bring it all together. Nishtachave v'nichra'a nivrecha l'fnei Hashem Eseinu. Gimel, v'yuvan back to Mabir the Tkiyah Shofar v'Shabbos b'avodas Adam. To understand this, we first have to understand what Tkiyah Shofar is and what Shabbos is in terms of the avodah of a person. Ha'avodah de Shofar tamlichuni aleichem amabah Shofar inyan habitl ki yadua shachtaras hamelech nasis ayidei habitl shel ha'am shayidei ze shemizbatim lefonav v'mesiris ritzayin v'nafshem elav mis'oired hamelech lachbatz b'melucha. Shofar represents the dedication, the complete dedication of the people to their melech, to their king, to their leader. And that's how coronation happens. Again, when we're talking about a genuine leader who's not looking for the power, in fact, it compromises him. It takes him away from his inner core and turns him into somebody whose entire life is now defined by thinking about the people. That's what a real nasi is. Rashi says, "Hanasi hu hakoil." The Rambam says, "Melech is the leiv kahal yisrael, the heart of the people, it's the heartbeat of the people." So what does it? It's the bittul. In other words, the complete dedication of the soul and the desire of the people to the king, to the melech, to the leader. That is what arouses in him the chayfetz l'malucha. Just like in a relationship, in a powerful relationship, when you sense how much you care for me, you appreciate me, you want to be connected. So even if internally somebody, they have a life and they have a very rich life, but that touches them in the deepest place, that I come out of my cave and I want to be connected to you. So that's the concept of shofar, which represents the bittul. And he says in 20, the Rebbe says that's why we blow with a shofar of a behemoth. So now we'll understand Animals have a characteristic of surrender that humans don't have. You could have a 12-year-old shepherd, running 300 sheep. As long as they trust him that he's not trying to threaten, as long as they trust him, they completely surrender. I'm yours. Like the body with the brain. There's no competition anymore. A behemoth does that. With people, it's much harder. So the shofar, we use a shofar shel behemoth to represent that type of bittul. And what type of sound do we make? We don't make sophisticated sounds. It's a kol poshet, ru'usa delibah, coming from the depth of the heart. In other words, the commitment is coming from the core. וכן העבודה דשבס קשורה עם עניין הביטל, כמבואר בדרוש חסידות שעניין השבס הוא ששבס ונוח כעומד לפני המלך בביטל. היינו שבמויס החל שאיר אלוקינו בגילי אז נרגשת מציאות אדם שויס המלאכתה. מה שאין ביום השבס דמקדשה וקיימה די הקודש ברוך הוא ויקדשהו, הרי זה כמו יעומד לפני המלך שלא ידם ידי לעשות מלאכה ואפילו לא באופן דמחר ובמחר בלבד. Shabbos too, it's explained in many Maimorim that the idea of Shabbos not working is not just you abstain from work. It's much deeper than that. Shabbos, it's like the person is standing in the presence of the king. The Gemara says in Chagiga, he says in 24, the Gemara brings that somebody was in front of the emperor and he started to make sign language. Machva b'machig means he started to make with his hands. And it was called Merida b'malchus. Why? Because in the presence of the melech, even gestures that are inappropriate are disrespectful. So he says during the week, godliness is more concealed. So you feel the reality, the ego of the universe. So it's appropriate to work. He wants you to work. But Shabbos, which Hashem sanctified, it says Vayikadsheu, like we said before, Mekadsha v'kaima, Hashem created the Kedusha. So it's like you're standing in the presence of the Melech. You're standing in the presence of the Melech, so the person doesn't work. The person is more in a state of awe, of reverence, of connection, the state of attachment, rather than engagement with the physical world. ולאידך, ההני הביטל דשבס לביטל דרש השנה, שהביטל דרש השנה שחל בשבס, הוא מבחינת שבס שבוסם. שבס בשבתי לגבי הביטל דרש שבס ורשנה סתם שחל במאה השבוע. So now we'll understand, we're going to begin to understand, every Shabbos is bittul. Every Shabbos represents a heightened level in the intimacy between the person and Hashem. But Rosh Hashanah, that's Shabbos. When you coronate Hashem, it's a much deeper level of bittul. You have the combination. On the other hand, the Shabbos bittul elevates the bittul of Rosh Hashanah. It works both ways, give and take. So the bittul of Rosh Hashanah on Shabbos is like Shabbos Shabbosa. Yeah, Shabbos adds to Rosh Hashanah. Shabbos adds to Rosh Hashanah that it's not a regular Rosh Hashanah bittul, it's a Shabbos dika bittul. It's a Shabbos b'Shabbat relative to Rosh Hashanah in the middle of the week. What does this mean though? What does this mean? So he says, "V'yesh levaya ma'alas habitul de Rosh Hashanah shechol b'Shabbos l'gabe Rosh Hashanah stam al derech haShabbos harishon sheisa b'smichus u'b'hamshach Rosh Hashanah harishon b'yamshich shel ha'maisa b'reishis erev Shabbos." What's the mile of the bittul on Rosh Hashanah on Shabbos versus every Rosh Hashanah? Similar to the first Shabbos in creation, right after the first Rosh Hashanah. The first Rosh Hashanah was on a Friday. We don't have Rosh Hashanah on Friday. But Shabbos came right after Rosh Hashanah. Afal pisha b'yom shishi l'maisa b'reishis Paul adam rishon habitul b'chol habriya boyev v'nishtachve v'nichra lo hoya habitul b'tachlis hashleimus ki noisef l'kach shabitul hoya mitzadatam boyev nishtachve l'fnei Hashem oiseinu the kivon shu oiseinu tzrichim li'ptei l'melav harei ha'ishtachava atzma yipu'ulosi shel ha'mishtachava וכיוון שהוא עושה פעולה, אפילו פעולה שההשתחווה שמבטא את הביטול שלו, הרי זה באופן שנרגשת מציוסי. והיספה בביטול די השבס, לגבי הביטול די ראש השנה, שהדי הביטול למלך אין יכול לעשות שום פעולה, אפילו לא פעולה של השתחווה, כמו שבעמד לפני המלך הרי בביטול בתכלס. I'm just saying the words and he's going to explain what these words mean. On Friday, the first Rosh Hashanah, Adam Arishan brought the creation together under the king. But this is a lower level of bittul. The bittul happened because of a reason. In other words, he says he's our creator, so therefore we have to pay our dues. We have to be subservient. Furthermore, it's expressed in an act. Nishtachava, let's bow down. Let's prostrate ourselves. So there's an identity that's prostrating itself. Shabbos brings out a deeper thing. That in the presence of the king, I can't even do an activity, not even prostrating myself, because the I, so to speak, ceases to be. To explain what these two things mean, it says, what does the word bittul mean? What does the word bittul mean? Usually it's translated as self-nullification. As I often said, this word self-nullification could be deeply, deeply misconstrued. It can be completely misunderstood and misconstrued. Here's the rule. If you hear bittul and your soul doesn't get filled up with pleasure, internal pleasure, you didn't understand the word. If you hear bittul and you get jittery, you get anxious, so it means you don't understand the word. The word bittul then needs to be bottle, and we need to rediscover it. Here we're going to learn what bittul means, and there's two states in this bittul. One is much deeper than the other. And when we say one is deeper than the other, means one is far more powerful and authentic in the human connection than the other. Oifena Aleph, Sha'adam avatel es atzmi amoyse nafshi retzena l'kadosh baruch hu ad shekol mitziyusi einay eved ela eved melech k'mo ya eved shekol mitziyusi hi mitziyus ha'adam. One bittul is a person dedicates their soul, their desire, their very entity. And I define myself as an eved melech, as a servant of Hashem. Like a servant whose very identity is, so to speak, an extension of the master. Aval afal became kivon sheyeshna avoida shel bittul shenasis idea eved nirgeshes mitziusay shel eved. This is an avoida of bittul, and it's created through the servant. So his identity and reality as separate is still felt. Oifen abeis ba'amde lefnei hamelech ba'ofen shemitziusay eine nirgeshes klal ad kedei kach shelei shayich loimer shehu batel el hamelech. There's a relationship in which the separateness is lost. So you can't say this person is batel. The fact that you have to say you're having bittul is already not bittul. It means we're separate. V'haraya, I have to be mevatel myself. But when there's complete oneness, that's what bittul is. There's no bittul. It's complete reunion. There's no separateness. Let me. So it becomes a paradox. When you talk about bittul, it means it's not bittul. It's bittul, but it's not real bittul. You understand? When you talk about bittul, you're nullifying. Why are you nullifying? There's friction, there's tension, there's separation. Real bittul means there's no bittul. There's complete oneness. There's no separation anymore. Let me. Yeah. When we talk about the word eved, slavery, in our culture, for good reason, it's understood as abuse, as oppression, right? Abraham Lincoln is considered a righteous person for abolishing slavery and fighting for it and ultimately forfeiting his life for it in the United States of America. The Rebbe once had a Fabrengen mentioned Abraham Lincoln, and he said that he was from Chassidium Masa'ila. The Rambam says, Yeshlam chelik lo'elam haba, et meshacher gewend ha'avadim. The state of slaves in the U.S. and other parts of the world was horrendous. The lack of any human dignity, you lynch, you can torture, you can beat, you can kill. In halacha, when you have an eved and you kill him, you get the death penalty. There's no. If you decide to hang your eved, you get the death penalty. I mean, with Eidim and Asra v'chuli. They used to even they would knock out a limb of the eved so that if he runs away, everybody should see that he's an eved. Knock out a tooth, right? So what's the halacha if you do that? He goes free. Because masters would do these things. An eved divri, B'chlal can't keep for more than 6 years, and even then, you have to treat him like a master, right? If you have one pillow, he gets it. But even an eved knaini in halacha, it's a whole different gather. It's a human being. Shabbos, you're not allowed to make him work. An eved knaini, he sits in mizrach. There was a concept even in the world of, but generally the world of avdus we see as terrible abuse, and there's a reason for it. Because why should one human being be the slave of another human being? So it's important when we talk here about being an eved Hashem to get out of that mindset. Here, being an eved actually means becoming more of yourself. Why? Because, as we always learn, the reality of everything is the divine energy. The divine energy. So to be in alignment with divine energy, that's what it means to be an Eved Hashem. To be an Eved Hashem means I could surrender my ego, my fake identity, my broken identity, and I allow my soul, my desire, my instincts, my emotions to become a conduit and an expression of divine energy. That's bittul. It's the healthiest thing you could do in life every day. When I respond to my spouse or to my children or to myself or to other people, not to respond from a place of ego, but to respond from a place of alignment. Alignment with what? Alignment with my own infinity. I am infinity. I am a channel. That's what it means to be an Eved Hashem. There was a Yid whom I knew, his name was Reb Mendel Futterfass. Reb Mendel Futterfass spent more than a decade in the Gulag. When Stalin died, he came out. He was a very special man. He came to America, he came out of Russia in the 1960s. So he was so many years in Siberia, and it's ungeschäft mit Meises that there was nothing to do there, besides working and dying and getting sick. But stories he heard, and he was a great storyteller. So he shared an incredible story. It was about himself. He said one night in the barrack, Stalin, if you had a brain in Russia, you were either killed or you got exiled. Unless nobody knew you had a brain. But if you had an opinion, you had a feeling, boom, you were done, finished. So who was in Siberia? You had professors, you had generals, you had commanders, you had intelligent people. Of course, priests, scholars, poets, actors, essayists. It wasn't criminals. There were criminals too, but you're talking about real intelligentsia. So Mendel said that in his barrack one night, there was a fellow, and he started in Russian, he started to cry. And he said, you know what I used to be? He was an actor in Moscow. He said, I was the celebrity of Moscow. People looked at me in the street and they stopped, they pointed, they wanted an autograph. It was an honor to have me at an event. And today, what am I? I have nothing. I'm going to die here like a dog, stripped from all dignity. And he was sharing and crying. So the second guy in the barrack says, hey, you? What about me? I was considered one of the greatest doctors in Russia. And what am I now? Nothing. And the next person says, hey, what are you guys complaining? He was a general in the Tsar's army. And Stalin sent him to Khadgadi over there for 40 years. He says, stripped from everything. And everyone was talking about their old life that was glorious and their present life. And they have nothing, and they were all sobbing. Reb Mendel says somehow he didn't join the Tisha B'Av over there. So somebody turned to him, and in good Russian humor says, you were probably a loser before too, huh? So you have nothing to cry for. That's what he says to him. You didn't lose a job. You didn't have a job before. You have no job now. You didn't have a life before. You don't have a life now. That's what he tells the Mendel. So the Mendel is a kluge Yid. He says, no. The opposite. I didn't lose my job here. They said, what do you mean? He said, actually, I had a very respectable job. He had a chocolate factory that he ran. He said, I did very well. I was a successful person. I was married. I have a wife. I have children. I had a life. But my main job, I didn't lose. My main career was that I was an Eved Hashem. I was a servant of Hashem. And that vocation I still have here too. What changed was the software, not the hardware. The mechanics, the location, the method, the schedule, the nature of the work changed. But my vocation, my career, my essential identity of who I am as a person, nobody can take that away from me. So I understand your pain, but my life wasn't taken away. Now I'm serving God in a different front, like a soldier. You're sent one day here, and then the next year you're sent to a different position. I was sent to a different front, a much harder front. I would rather be in the other front, but I'm on a front. So this gave him, this is what bittul means. This gave him a confidence in life. He was anchored in something that nobody could take away. Why? Because he didn't see himself in terms of just a physical being who has control over things and what I own, this is who I am. He saw himself as a soldier of Hashem, as Eved Hashem. That's always, Eino Ed Mulvadai, Malach Halaretz Kvoidai. He says in footnote 30, a gewaltige word from the Rashba. V'lechein kol ma shekana Eved kana Rabbi, Kiddushin Dav Chav Gimel. Those who are learning Kiddushin, so you just learned this, Kiddushin. שאין זה באופן שתחילה כהנה עבד ואחר כך כהנה עדין ממנו, כי אם שמלכתחילה כהנה רבי, ראי חידוש הרשב"א. It says, מה שכהנה עבד כהנה רבי. When an Eved Knaini acquires something, his master acquired it. Let's say he finds something in this tree, some mitzvah, and he acquires it. It goes to his master. Why? So the Rashba says it's not. He acquires it, and then his master says, hey, you work for me, it's mine. That's not the word. מה שכהנה עבד כהנה רבי לכתחילה. It's almost like the hand of the master is extended through the Eved. That's the idea. You have it even in Allah. A kohen can eat truma. If a Yisrael eats truma, so Isser Misr B'dei Shamayim. It's like very intense energy. A kohen could feed truma to his Eved Knaini, who's a non-Jewish Eved, who becomes a semi-Jew, and he can eat truma. So imagine, Moshe Rabbeinu eats truma, Misr B'dei Shamayim. This man, who's 10 minutes ago was a Gentile and is now an Eved, he's allowed to eat truma. You can explain this to me. What's the pshat? The pshat is the Eved doesn't eat it as a separate person. It's an extension of the kohen. It's the kohen eating it. So nish kein eigen azach, like it says in Gemara in Shavuos, Eved melech melech. Right? The Eved of the melech is the melech. The Baal Shem Tov says, a gewaldige mashal. He says one day the king sent a letter with his servant to his subjects in town. So the Eved comes and he says he has a message from the Melech. So everybody was in awe, everybody jumped up, and this servant comes in. He never got so much covered in his life. He never got so much of his life. It was like everybody was silent and awe. They took out the letter and they read it, b'dechimu, with yireh. So he said, oh wow, I didn't realize I'm such a chashuv guy. So the next week he decided to come back on his own and get the same treatment. He comes back and they treated him like a peasant. He says, was ist geschehen? What happened? They said, last week you were an Eved Melech, so you were the Melech. Ein bist der Scheike Pfeifer. The moment I go into my ego, so I'm as big as my ego is. So today my ego is big. Tomorrow you insult me, my ego is gone. The next day you compliment me, my ego is big. The next day you insult me, my ego is gone. You understand? We take the covet seriously because we don't realize what it's from. It's Eved Melech Melech. Masha kana Eved kana Rabbi. That's what bittul means. So bittul means the courage to strip yourself from vanity, which is not easy, because it's very easy to fall into that trap the trap of separateness. And we go into the place of connection, and it's a choice you have to make every day. And this is the choice of bittul. It's alignment. It's like a healthy body. What does a healthy body mean? That it's one with the brain. The moment you sever the body from the brain, chas v'shalom, and you say, I'm not taking orders from the brain, from the central nervous system, it means you're in a terrible illness. So bittul means you're healthier, not you're not healthier. You're healthier. You're aligned. You're aligned with your true self. You're aligned with the flow. You're in the flow of energy. We don't like avdus because it's abuse. Why is one man controlling another man? Why? But when we're talking about here, not an eved for another human being. We're talking an eved to what? To your truth, to your reality, to the cosmic oneness. Like the mashal I gave shabbes, right? You're in the ocean, and then you put a bottle in the ocean and you fill it up with water, and you decide that all of reality is just the bottle when really you're in the ocean. So the bottom line is that's the first level of bittul. Says the Rebbe, that's not bittul. That means nebach, you're separate, and you have to be mevatel yourself. Real bittul is you're one. There's no bittul. What's there to be mevatel? The moment there's something to be mevatel, is shenish bittul. So you're busy being mevatel. So the word bittul is the greatest contradiction to bittul. It's not as bad as yeshes, but the word bittul is already the issue. In other words, in real bittul, why are you being mevatel? Why are you being mevatel? There's one. There's complete oneness. When there's a struggle between my infinite self and my small self, that's where bittul comes in. It's the choice to strip myself from vanity and become a channel for infinity. When myself is realigned with infinity and it's one, there's nothing to be mevatel. When the bottle is fighting with the ocean, because I don't know about the ocean, all I know is about my bottle of water. And then you say, stop fighting with the ocean. Open up your cap and let your water become a channel for the ocean. You're not a bottle, you're the whole ocean. Great. Once you pour out the water into the ocean, it's not mevatel. It's ein zach. Ein zach. Your typhus. The Baal Shem Tov said, Anoichi oimed bein Hashem u beinechem. The sense of ego. And by the way, ego here doesn't mean that the person is necessarily malicious. Like in our generation, we see that ego is mostly the opposite, the insecurity. Ego doesn't mean ego, oh, I'm the king of the universe. Sometimes it's expressed that way, but it's usually in the exact opposite. Very often in the exact opposite. How much the person puts themselves down. The anxiety of the person, the fear of the person. It's the brokenness of the person. But it's that idea of, I'm lonely, I'm so separate, I'm so detached, I have to protect myself. There's walls around me. It's ego, but when you use the word ego, just like bittul, people could take it the wrong way. People sit at a shir often and they hear ego, so they tell themselves, oh, my ego is the source of all evil. And the truth is, all they need is a little ego. They need, halavai they would have an ego. Huh? A healthy ego, halavai they would have an ego. Bittul means you have a good ego, you have a healthy ego. Healthy ego. Healthy ego means you can align yourself. Healthy ego means that my ego is actually real. It's because it's aligned with the true ego. Huh? Was? Yeah. Metzias is a preparation for bittul. Yosef and Yehuda, yeah. Torah Vayigash, yeah. They thought Yosef is undermining bittul. They didn't understand Yosef is the preparation for bittul. The more you have a healthy metzias, the more you can have bittul. Because if I'm completely wounded, I can't afford bittul. I'm trying to protect whatever I have. So sorry, don't get close to me. It's so wounded. The $1 billion question, huh? Real bittul heals. Real bittul heals a wounded metzias, because that's what real bittul means. Real bittul means the moment you can recognize your attachment with Ein Sof, if I can, I don't mean say it, I could say it all day, I'm talking about feel it. Words are not enough. The moment I can experience it, I'm in a healed place. It doesn't mean I didn't have to deal with things. It doesn't mean I don't have to deal with things. It doesn't mean that the other parts will not float to the top and try to take over. But the moment I can have a real experience of that, so then at least I can choose, to shift my consciousness into that mode of reality. And that's what the avodah of bittul means. That avodah of bittul means to make a daily choice, sometimes an hourly choice, to shift from being in a container of separateness, which may be completely unconscious and instinctive and my natural default mode, to be able to open myself up, to be a channel for the true reality which I am part of. Eved, melech, melech, and then I am the melech. Not because my ego is the melech, but because I don't need an ego. I can get rid of it. And what's the ego in this sense? Just like an ego is like, oh, your ego, I have to be right. There's another ego, the alter ego. I'm using the word as a quip. And that is, I'm always wrong. That's the same ego. Saying I'm always right and saying I'm always wrong is the same thing. Saying I'm on top of the world and I'm better than everybody and saying I'm worse than everybody, it's the same thing. I'm worse than everybody. I'm worthless. Oh, I'm better than everybody. It's exactly the same ego. Expresses itself in different ways, but the results are as disastrous. Both can't be in a relationship. Both can't believe in themselves. Both can't take initiative. Both can't be creative. Both can't be humble. How can I be humble if I'm worse than everybody? So I'm just trying to survive. I'm choking. Both keep me completely isolated. So there's two levels in bittul. One is where there's an avodah of bittul, and it's a geschmacka avodah, but it's an avodah of bittul. But then he says, when you come in front of the king, sometimes you come in front of somebody and you're not there. You're not there to be bottle. To be mevatel yourself, you have to be there. I say, Zaysk mevatel. Sometimes you're mesmerized by something, or you just melt away. You're like in awe. That's bittul. What makes it bittul? That there's no bittul. You forget to remember that you have to be mevatel yourself. You forget to remember that you're traumatized. You forget to remind yourself how crazy you are. Huh? And if you could do it forever, ma tov manoyim. If you could stay there, ma tov manoyim. Huh?
You can't survive that.
You, of course you won't survive then. You live. You won't have to survive. You live. You live. You don't stop. No. You think it means you become a paralyzed statue. No. That's not what we're talking about. You're not a paralyzed statue. You're a conduit.
So much pleasure.
It's pleasure, but it's not it's the pleasure of life. It's the pleasure of reality. I told you once. I once asked a big musician. It was in Carnegie Hall. I said, "How do you know he plays the piano? How do you know it's a successful concerto? Like what's called successful? Standing ovation for 20 seconds instead of 2 seconds. From the applause at the end of a speech. Kemen wissen, right? If it's like one person applauding b'diavad, so it's one, and then you have everybody, and then you have a standing ovation. I'm not asking for a standing ovation after the shir. It won't hurt, but I'm not standing. I'm not asking for it. But I asked him, how do you know? So you know what he said? He said something so profound. He said, if I'm in the middle of playing and I'm not there anymore, that's successful. That's success. Vayehi kenagin amenagin. The Maggid of Mizrich. It says by Elisha, Vayehi kenagin amenagin, v'tihi alav yad Hashem. What's kenagin amenagin? So the Maggid says, when the menagin became the niggin. The Hest, when the menagin became the niggin. The Maggid said, when you're playing the violin, can you be like the violin? The violin is not busy thinking, you think they're going to hire me again? How much do you think I can ask next time? You think the crowd likes me? The Stradivarius violin doesn't sit. You think they like me? You think I'm doing well? Hey, the guy in the back, why is he texting in the middle of my shiur? Why is he texting? It's not interesting? Nobody's texting. I'm just giving a mashal. The violin is a violin. I'm not busy thinking if I'm a violin and how I'm a violin if you like me. So the Maggid says, can you be the violin? Can the menagin become the instrument of the song? Then Vatiyah Lav Yad Hashem. So this person said, when I'm not there anymore, and my fingers are just channeling the music from someplace above me, that's success. You understand? This wasn't no, it's abuse. It's not. It's abuse. It's abuse. It's not abuse. This is called fulfillment. It's called alignment. When he finishes, his pleasure is much deeper than any other pleasure. Why? Why does he have pleasure? You weren't even there. Because he was exactly where he was supposed to be. He was one with the music. And that's all he wants. He wants to be one with the music. You don't need anything else. I need something else when I don't have that. Zu gesund. When I don't realize that I'm part of the ocean, then I need the bottle filled with water because that's what I have. And then I'm busy my whole life protecting my bottle. That's what I'm busy doing. The bottle with the water is like the ego inside the ocean. When you can open up the bottle to the ocean, you're the ocean. So the avodah of bittul is moededik, but the Rebbe says that's the first level. A much deeper avodah of bittul is your mitzias is not felt as anything separate. When he comes in the presence of the melech, and we're talking about a melech that deserves bittul, we're talking about a melech that mirrors Hashem's malchus. If you're standing in front of a melech who's an abusive meshugana, then don't be mevatel yourself. Then get out as fast as possible. We're talking about a melech that represents real bittul. So then it's not like, oh, should I be mevatel myself? You're ois.
Keep reminding ourselves every day that we still have trauma and talk about the trauma. Isn't it something that's blocking me from becoming one?
So it's a very good question. There's a very delicate balance between being stuck in my brokenness and always talking about it. But on the other hand, there's another extreme, which is bypassing it. Pushing it away, denying it, repressing it, getting angry at it. And that keeps me stuck there in a worse way sometimes, because it doesn't let me bring it up and breathe it out. So it's a very delicate balance. That's why we say there's levels in bittul. Why don't you just say, bittul is you're not here? Because it's not true. If you speak like that, you're not being authentic, right? That's why there'll always be there's one madrega, there's another madrega, there's a deeper madrega. Why? Because I don't climb the top of Mount Everest, in the first hour. It doesn't work that way. And if you do, you're not on top of Mount Everest. You took Mount Everest and you made it 2 feet tall. It's tall. So there's a process. The first avodah is awareness. And then there's the choice. And remember that some of these forces are so powerful because they're deep in our unconscious. So we don't even have awareness of them. So I have to have awareness of all my pain in order to be able to breathe out my pain and choose alignment. If I don't have awareness of my brokenness, I'm not going to be able to choose alignment. You know why? Because I'm going to define my brokenness as alignment, because I don't have any other vocabulary. That's what we learned in the Mayim Ani L'doidi, Ubikashtem Mishamas Hashem Elokecha. What's Ubikashtem Mishamas Hashem Elokecha? You have to search for what's lost where it was lost. Misham. You can't search for the lost soul in the places where it wasn't lost. I have to go where it was lost. And then I could say, can I make a choice? So let's now finish this inyan, and then we'll take a break. Mamish, another 5 minutes, we'll finish the Nekuda. Al derech hayadua binyan ha-mesiras nefesh. Page 706, the third paragraph. Yesh mesiras nefesh ba'ofen shenoisav l'kach shemevin b'sichlei. שבשביל הקודש ברוך הוא צריך למסור נפשי המסירת נפש עצמי באופן שנרגש שמוסרת נפשי לקודש ברוך הוא. V'yesh darga nailis yosef shel shayach l'kloisa b'shem mesidus nefesh. Kiven she'ein metzias shel nefesh. Shemayis remayis l'kadosh baruch hu. Ki im hakadosh baruch hu levada. The hest for the Rebbe, was the Rebbe is. You have mesidus nefesh. Ich bin sich moiser nefesh. Okay, I'm saying it a little bit with an ego, but even if it's without an ego, I'm having mesidus nefesh now. I'm surrendering my soul. He says, real mesidus nefesh is not called mesidus nefesh. You're one. You're one. You're l'chatchila one. There's mesidus nefesh, which is the avodah of mesidus nefesh. I'm taking my soul and I'm surrendering it. No small feet. No small feet. He says there's a much deeper mesidus nefesh. It's not called mesidus nefesh. There's no separation. They're one. Mesidus nefesh means there's a nefesh, and the nefesh is contained in its own independent reality, and now I'm stripping it from its external layers, and I'm giving it back to its source. But in this case, he says, there's no metzias of a nefesh to be meiser. There's no nefesh that you're giving away. There's absolute unity. And that's what a person really is. The fact that we're talking about mesidus nefesh means we still don't get it. The fact that we're talking about bittul, it's better than not talking about bittul, but it means you don't estimate how great you are. You think you're a contradiction to God. That's why the whole vocabulary, especially in chinuch, and when we talk to people, what's the Rebbe teaching here? The vocabulary has to change. You're not separate, that you have to become one. That's all layers that we create due to the darkness in existence. You don't have to have mesidus nefesh. That's not the ultimate of Judaism. You hear? The ultimate of Judaism is not mesidus nefesh. Not because, so if people just cut this out as a clip, Rabbi YY said that there's no mesidus nefesh in Judaism. You understand what happens? Completely not toifus the nekuda. That's the myelin clips. You take what you want, boom. Huh? Clipper, very good. A clip could be a clipper, very good. Why is the ultimate of Judaism not mesidus nefesh? Because mesidus nefesh is a product of golos. Mesidus nefesh means I'm surrendering my soul. In other words, there's this contention. So it's a glorious concept. There's nothing like, but he says in the ultimate mesidus nefesh, there's no mesidus nefesh. You're in a beautiful. You don't need to be meiser nefesh. There's no nefesh that's separate to be meiser. There's ein noid malvandoi. You're in the best place. And when we say you're in the best place, it means you're now in that best. When you say there's a level of bittul, it means that's, if you go deeper into your soul, that's the bittul you're going to find. So in the ultimate avodah, we reach a place where you're not separate and you don't have to override that. There's nothing to override. There's nothing to give away. In other words, if I'm lost, I have to come back. If I'm separate, I have to reconnect. You sometimes need therapy even to begin to trust your instincts to understand this. But of course, when you're there, it's much deeper than therapy. Therapy is a hachana. Therapy is a hechsher mitzvah. A hechsher mitzvah is a big thing. But this is much deeper. Now, for this, you have to have complete trust, right? Talking of marriage, right? You first have to work through all your differences and friction to even begin to get to this place. Because remember, if this is not done in a real way, it could be horrible. Oh, you don't have a nefesh. You understand what people can be? Oh, you don't have a nefesh. Wer bist du? Ashmata. You don't even have a soul. Mesidus nefesh. Oh, du bist der ganze Metzias as the main. You just took the sicha, boom. You think you have a soul, they have to be meiser nefesh. We'll tell you the truth. You're nothing. You're less than a rock. A rock doesn't need mesidus. You don't even need it. It's punkt farkert.
This was the whole machlokes with Kotzk, no? Kotzk was bitla yeshes all day long that they came.
You're saying a real nekuda now. In Kotzk, there was a tremendous focus on bittul hayesh. And a Yid actually called me, he's into these things, he's a scholar. And he said, I see in Kotzk, I see so much psychology. In Chassidus Chabad, I don't see psychology. It's all about God. It's all about God. It's not about you. You're not taifas the nekuda. Bittul hayesh is a beautiful thing, but it means that you really believe in the yesh. The Alter Rebbe didn't believe in the yesh. He felt the yesh is, okay, you have to work it through, no question. But you're much greater, deeper, you have to take it seriously because we all struggle with it. If you don't take it seriously, you're not going to deal with it. But allow yourself to be open for something that doesn't need Mesiras Nefesh. So let's finish. Ki habitl v'mesiras nefesh the yechidu k'mudgish b'shem yechide b'ofen the yechide leyachtach. Hainu pu'ula shel leyachtach es HaKadosh Baruch Hu. U'b'meila nigish en yishal metzias. U'lemaylam is a etzem an hashama she'en lekreisa b'shem kivin she'en metzias she'yoymen ala Hashem v'toyer afilu loy yechide leyachtach bittul b'tachlis. Every person has this. It says in Medrash, the soul has 5 names. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chai, Yechida. The Rebbe says, even the highest level is a name. It's not you. What's the name? The name is Yechida. What does Yechida mean? We say in the Hashanah of Sichos about the Jewish soul, Toyenes Ulach, Yechida liyachdach. Yechida means it's one, it's unified. And what does it do, liyachdach? It's busy unifying you. So he says, liyachdach, that's a pu'ula of bittul. I'm busy unifying you. I have to say, Hashem echad u'shmo echad. That's the highest name of the soul. It's not the soul. It's already a name. In other words, it's already identity. A name is something that has identity. The etzem haneshama is lechatchila one with infinity. It doesn't even have a name. Bittul betachlis. So there's no liyachtach. I don't have to make you one. I don't have to declare oneness. It's essential oneness.
This world is
yeah, right. You're right. This is the Torah.
You need to find a true identity.
Yeah. You're right. That's why we call it bittul. That's why we call it bittul. Bittul means to nullify. What are we nullifying? We're nullifying the powerful, intuitive sense of separateness. Now, based on all this, so now we'll understand not blowing shofar may be more powerful than blowing shofar. And this is the last the point now. Al pize yeshlevar achilek sheben abitl b'rishon shechal b'mei hashavua shemizbat ha'idei tkiyas shofar la bitl b'rishon shechal b'sham shemizbat ha'idei ze she'ein token b'shofar. There's the bitl of Rosh Hashanah, middle of the week, expressed through blowing shofar. I'm coronating Hashem as king. Yechi HaMelech, Hashem is the king. Malchusay bakol mashallah. V'yeda kol pol ki atapalta. And then there's Rosh Hashanah on Shabbos, where you don't blow shofar. So we think, you don't blow, it's Shabbos, you gotta let it blow. It's a passive thing. You don't blow. He says, no. Hatkiya b'shofar hi pu'ula shel isbatlos. Blowing shofar is an act of his batlos. It's an activity of bittul. Shemevatil es atzmi l'kadosh baruch hu machtiroi l'melech alav al olam kulei. He's mevatil his etzem, his himself, his separateness to Hashem, and coronates him as a king on himself and the whole world. I'm an Eved Melech. Like Reb Mendel said, and I don't lose that anywhere, not in Siberia, and not in my factory, not when I'm on top of the world, and not when I'm I'm an Eved Melech. And therefore you can't be broken. You can't be broken, because you're not a bottle, you're the ocean. You can't be broken. Al derech ha'charasada shel adam harishon boy nishtach v'aynu sheyeshna mitziyusa shel adam ha'mevatel asatzmi l'kadosh baruch hu machtire l'melech al kol ha'man shnigich mitziyusa. So there's a person who surrenders and nullifies himself to Hashem and coronates him as a king. So by definition, bittul means there's a mitziyus. What are you mevatel? Mitziyus. If there's no mitziyus, what are you mevatel? The only thing you can't be mevatel is bittul. You understand what I'm saying? Bittul kenish batel werden. Mitziyus, you can be mevatel. Avol k'shemagil l'darga kazu shel batel b'mitziyus l'gami loyrach shemevatel esatzmi ela shebatel be'etzem. Lo shayich sheyiska b'shayfer v'yachlis l'bittul hakadosh baruch hu b'yin nishtachva kiven she'ein mitziyus klauzuloski yisbarach. When you're not mevatel yourself, you're batel be'etzem. You're in that state of oneness. What are you taking a shofar and telling me that you're nullified? What are you taking a shofar? Yeah, Lord long live the king. There's no Metzias outside of him. There's no Metzias outside of Hashem. V'yisedem is shlilas ha'ishtachava yiloidek mitzad ha'mishtachava elegam mitzad pulas ha'ishtachava atzma kamu lel shebamdi lefnei melech lo yodem es yodei afilu lo yibayfen de machve b'machik shebazeh nechlel is gam ha'shtila de pulas ha'bitl de tkiya shofer ki gam pulas ha'bitl hi bebchines machve b'machik ubamdi lefnei melech ein shum metzias ki metzias ha'melech bulvat. It's not just mitzad the person who's bowing down, that I'm not bowing down because I'm already one. It's also what you're doing. When I'm standing in front of the king, stop blowing, stop screaming, don't lift your hands, don't blow, schreinisch, don't coronate me. The person melts away in it. He can nagen, I'm a nagen. There's no self-consciousness to undo self-consciousness. So there's complete silence. Even machve b'machig, even a sign is called midid b'malchus. There's no metzias, In the weekday, the person is reaching a place of consciousness where I'm surrendering my ego.
How about if you do Yom Arichta, we didn't blow on Shabbos?
So that's Rosh Hashanah on Shabbos. Rosh Hashanah in the middle of the week is the avodah of bittul. So it's not Rosh Hashanah Shechali is b'Shabbos. In the beginning of the Sikh, he said there's no avodah on Rosh Hashanah Shechali is b'Shabbos. How can it happen without avodah? He says there is avodah, but it's a whole deeper avodah. It's not that it doesn't happen through the Jew. It happens through the Jew going into a space of silence, of no shofar. It's not that you don't blow shofar as a passive thing. It's not blowing shofar as an avodah. ומזם מובן שגם בראשון של חול בשבת נעשה הקדוש ברוך הוא מלך הדעה ודסם של ישראל. אלא שהוודסם אינה באופן של עשי ופעולה חיובס, אפילו לא הפעולה דשתחווה, כפיתו שהדי תקיע שפר, כי אם הידי זה שפתלים בתכלס עד שאין יכולים אפילו לתקיע בשפר. It's not that they don't blow, it's that they can't blow. It's not that they don't blow, they can't blow. So the Shoshana on Shabbos, Hashem becomes a melech. How? Through avodah. But the avodah is not through a positive action that I'm involved in, not even kneeling down, prostrating myself, bittul, blowing shofar, but rather entering that state where even blowing shofar, I can't. Why? Because you touch the essence of your soul, and the essence of your soul is beyond yichidah. The essence of the soul is beyond the name. There's complete fusion to the point that there's no separateness, there's no bittul. So now when I'm teaching, if I'm teaching Judaism to students, to children, to adults, what do I want to teach them? We may need bittul, and we have to work on bittul. But what are we really getting at? We're really getting at that the truth is, you don't need bittul. The truth is, you don't need mesiras nefesh. The moment you're going to strip away your names from your soul, you don't even need liyachtach. Not because there's no liyachtach, because there's complete liyachtach, there's complete oneness. This is the koyach that happens when Rosh Hashanah is on Shabbos. Because of Shabbos, the power of Shabbos, the bittul of Shabbos. So it's not only what the Alter Rebbe said, what Shabbos accomplishes, shofar accomplishes in other years, and this year Shabbos accomplishes it. He says, fakert, it's much deeper than that. It's the avodah of Nabl. Which now brings us to a big question, which we're going to continue next time, and that is, in the Beis HaMikdash, they blew shofar. So in the Beis HaMikdash, there was no real bittul. So that means we're not there yet. Huh? The Herst?
We need to turn on Seichel again? Oh, yeah.
Turned it off.
The truth is like this. When the Rebbe said it, when he said this Vart, I thought, wow, Dayenu. Then when he came to the last Vart, why they blew in the Beis HaMikdash, I was like, oh, it's already. We'll see. Be'ezer Hashem will continue.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.